you wanted to talk about the post-election sort of a wrap-up.
Yeah.
Sort of where we stand. Are you happy?
Very happy.
It was a weird one.
Morning in America.
That was one of the first times ever I felt hopeful after an election. Like, you should have seen the green room at the comedy club. Everybody was like, yes.
Yes.
Whoo.
So my theory is the timeline, like in a science fiction movie, the timeline has split twice in the last like 9 months.
What was the first split?
There was when Trump got shot. And there was that moment where the world was going to head in two totally different directions.
Right. If he got hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we saw the most conspicuous display of physical bravery I've ever seen.
Right.
In that moment. Exactly. Yeah. And it could have gone, horrifically badly for the entire world after that. So that was timeline split number one. So that other timeline's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
And I don't want to visit it.
Boy, imagine being stuck there. What kind of horrible karma.
No.
I mean, that's a totalitarian dystopian nightmare.
That's the bad place.
Yeah.
And then timeline split again on Election Day.
I know you fancy a good conspiracy theory.
Yes.
And that gentleman being able to pull off what he did and, the way it happened, the way it all went down it's a Lee Harvey Oswald 2.0.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah. The shooter. And that we still don't know anything.
Well, there's no call for disclosure. Yeah. There's no call for a press conference. There's no toxicology report. The toxicology report had to have been done. Yeah. Wouldn't you want to know, like, what kind of stuff this kid is on that made him want to do that, or if anything? Yeah.
So my theory is it's almost as if the people want us to think it's a conspiracy. Like it's almost like the whole thing is almost orchestrated. Like it's so strange. This is like the rapid cremation. Like the whole thing was just completely bizarre. And then you're exactly right. Like no hearings, no nothing. Now, having said that, I expect that this will change. Right. So,
do you think they're going to do a dive into what happened?
I mean, I would. I don't know if they will, but I certainly would if I was in a position to do that.
I wonder what they can actually find. I mean, I don't know if they wanted it to be a conspiracy that people talked about or if that's simply the best way to pull it off.
Yeah. Or it's just, as we saw, I think in the hearing afterwards, maybe just a systemic collapse of competence.
There's also a confidence in the fact that the news timeline today is so rapid. When things are relevant and people are paying attention to them is you have a couple of days. Yeah. Even with an assassination attempt on a former president. Yeah. Where people were murdered. Yeah. And it's in and out.
Yeah, that's right. I think the news cycle now is like a 2 to 3 day social media firestorm, and we just cycle from one to the next. Yeah. And we have the memory of goldfish, and things that would have been era defining just come and go with astonishing speed and shock. By the way, I should say I don't think there was I doubt there was a conspiracy. I think anything's possible. I think it's just we have a competence collapse, and I think we saw that on display when the director at the time testified.
Well, there's all the elements that it could have been a conspiracy.
It could have, but this is kind of the thing, which is this like it also could have been systemic competence collapse, and then it's like, okay, would it be better off for the institute, if it looks like a conspiracy, right? Yeah. Like, which world, okay, two timelines. Which world would you rather live in? The one with the conspiracies or the one with just like incompetence everywhere?
Well, I think you have both simultaneously. Right. I don't think it's binary. Right. I think there's incompetence everywhere and conspiracies are legitimate. They're real. Yeah. And that one seems like conspiracy. The fact that his house was professionally scrubbed. There's no social media record of this kid online. There's no nothing.
He's the only kid of his generation who's that fired up about politics to have no online footprint.
Right.
Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
And he's a registered Republican. Like, the whole thing is, like, so weird.
And he was, like, a bad shooter, and then he became a great shooter. And
well, he definitely trained.
Yeah, right.
Like, you could train someone to become a good shooter. This is all you have to do. But don't move and do that. Right. Get all your mechanics in place. Right. Understand technique and positioning, breathing. It's not like the most complicated thing from a prone position, right? But the fact that he chose to use iron sights, I thought was weird too. Yeah. There's a lot of weirdness to it. Yeah. From 140 yards with a scope, that is an easy shot. Yeah.
Well, then he could just like wander up.
That's the different timeline. The different timeline is he has a scope, and that's it.
Okay. All right. Right. That would have.
And Trump's dead. Yep. And then, boy, do we live in a crazy world then.
Yeah. Completely bizarre.
I mean, what does the streets look like right now? Yeah. What kind of like protests and riots and you think January 6th was nuts? Yes. If they had killed Trump, that would be January 6th on steroids everywhere.